Today's gospel reading, we once again have a reference to Judas Iscariot. So notice how he betrays our Lord for 30 pieces of silver. And, the question that often people ask is, well, why did Judas betray our Lord? Was it because he was greedy for the money? And I don't think that's the case. I think he had the intention of betraying our Lord, and he hoped he would get a little bit of extra in doing so, and so 30 pieces of silver. But recall I had spoken about Judas earlier in the week on Monday, and when Judas complained about the costly nard or perfume that Mary used to anoint the feet of Jesus, and how Judas complained, why wasn't this sold and the money given to the poor? So I pointed out that because he was in the habit of stealing from the money bag, that because of that sin, he's spiritually blinded. He doesn't see things quite right. And if you recall, when our Lord speaks about giving himself to us as true bread, in other words, when his Eucharistic discourse, chapter 6 of John's Gospel, if you look at that, at the very end of that, if I remember correctly, it says something to the effect, our Lord says, he knew the ones that did not believe. So some of his disciples left him, but he knew the ones that did not believe. And it doesn't mention Judas by name, but it's kind of implied that Judas probably didn't believe in our Lord's Eucharistic discourse. Now, with the other apostles, they may not have understood it completely, but they trusted our Lord. They stayed with our Lord, and they were open. Even with the resurrection of our Lord, they didn't quite understand what that meant or what our Lord was referring to, but they just trusted in the Lord. In the case of Judas, he also seems to be proud. I mentioned on Monday how some commentators point out that Judas felt offended when Jesus said, let her alone, let Mary alone, regarding the costly ointment, that she has done this and she's saving it for his burial. And because Judas was offended, it's a sign of his pride. So he's proud, he's a thief, so he's committing sins, and, could be mortal sin, it could just be venial sins, but even if it's just venial sin, it's something we need to root out. And he doesn't believe an essential teaching of our Lord about the Eucharist. And the question we ought to ask ourselves is, well, do we have some of these same faults? We're all prone to pride. Yes, we commit venial sin. Hopefully it's not habitual venial sin. And do we accept all the teachings of our Lord? The official teachings of the Church. It's very important that we accept all of these things. I've encountered individuals who just kind of pick and choose, but it's usually just one, maybe two teachings of the Church that they don't like, and they reject them. And what I've noticed is always these people have trouble with their faith. They have trouble with their relationship with God. They don't see things the way they should. They get confused about many other things also. So in order to have clarity of mind, we need to submit to the teaching authority of the Church, the official teachings in regards to all things. Now notice how when they're at the Last Supper, when our Lord reveals to them that one of them is going to betray them, and they say one after another, surely not I, Lord. And even Judas Iscariot says, surely not I, Rabbi. And Jesus replied, you have said so. And by saying you have said so, it's a Jewish way of saying what you say is correct. You have said it. That's the way it is. So it's kind of like our Lord is revealing it. And even when our Lord says, one of you is going to betray me, it's almost as if Judas doesn't really know what's going on, and he's just imitating the others, saying after them, surely not I. His mind is elsewhere. He doesn't understand. He doesn't see what he's doing. So in regards to why Judas betrayed him, I mentioned some of the things that contributed to it, but some argue that the reason is that, well, he did believe in Jesus. He did believe that he was the Messiah, but because of his pride, Judas thought that our Lord was going about things the wrong way. He needed to get the Pharisees, the Jewish leaders, on his side. And he hoped, some would argue, that by betraying our Lord to the Pharisees, that our Lord would manifest his wisdom to them and would convince them that he is the Messiah, and then all the Jews would be united. So that's kind of a charitable interpretation. And it's just speculation on our part. We don't really know. But what we should take away from this is that if Judas, who was so close to our Lord, one of the 12, could betray our Lord, well, so could we. And we betray him in different ways. We betray him when we sin, when we reject certain aspects of our faith, when we don't stand up for our faith when we should, when we have the opportunity to do so, and it's an ideal time to do so. So we betray our Lord or deny our Lord in so many different ways. Let us not be like Judas Iscariot. Just wanted to remind you that tomorrow is Holy Thursday. We will have the Mass of the Lord's Supper in the evening at 7:30 p.m. and there is no morning Mass. So no morning Mass on Thursday, no morning Mass on Friday or evening Mass. On Good Friday, it's the service at 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. And on Holy Saturday, no morning Mass, no 5 p.m. Mass, but we will have the Easter Vigil Mass at 8 p.m.